Hello, it's James. This is our third group life strategy session. The first two are on YouTube channel, Mentors and More. There's some good stuff in there. Trying to lay a foundation, talk about the principles of human behavior and relationships, and then branch off. So today we're going to do a whole new one on perfectionism. I started thinking about perfectionism a little bit more deeply this past week in lieu of this upcoming session today. And I think if you had asked me last week, I would have said, yeah, no, I don't struggle with it that much. I know that in the past I had, and I think it's far less nowadays than it has been. But as I really started to think through, I went to a deep dive on this, and partly I think there might be 2 or 3 sessions revolving around this because there's so much in there. There's so much I want to share about it. I probably won't be able to get to all of it. With that being said, each session, each week is going to be on another difficult circumstance. And that difficult circumstance is going to have a theme. And this week's one's perfectionism, but next week's might be depression or anxiety or bullying or being bullied or screen addiction or apathy or laziness or selfishness or whatever. We're going to go and delve into all of those. I'm going to create guidebooks for you. Want to stay in the range of 15 to 20 to 25 pages, make it nice and easy and friendly for you to read, so you can get a lot of data. As I went through and I explored all this and thought through, I was like, wow, there's a lot more here than I think most people are aware of. People typically think of perfectionism and go, oh, yeah, procrastinate, so I don't even bother trying. What I learned is that perfectionism is something that we quite often are programmed to have. I've learned that it's a trap. I learned that it's an addiction. For those that struggle with it, there's nothing wrong with setting goals and striving towards an ideal or setting expectations for somebody else or having someone impose expectations on you. There's nothing wrong with that inherently. The problem is when they're unreasonable, when the demands are way beyond what someone could really truly do. That's where it is a problem. The other part where it becomes problematic is the approach to try to achieve that standard. You can have a perfectly good standard that's reasonable, but if your approach is passive or aggressive or passive aggressive, once again, you're trapped in perfectionism, and it's an addiction, and all addictions are destruction. So as I thought this through, one of the things became clear to me. I started rolling back the tape and thinking about my upbringing, and I'm going to try to be brief on it. Everyone's got their story and everyone's got their challenges. My upbringing, my first 14 years was super oppressive. If you were to ask me, frankly, I would say there was not much good or much love. There's lots of reasons behind it. One of them was my mother was a teenager when she had me, oldest child. She has significant trauma and abuse history. She herself, I think, struggled with perfectionism as I thought it through. Being in an unsafe environment that's got lots of abuse and violence, you end up having the standard opposed that you try to think like, if I'm just perfect enough, if I do the right things and I do them the right way, then ultimately I'll stay off the radar. And so it puts this pressure on you. Like, I want to be safe. And then that's half of it. The other half of it is I also want to get nutrients. I want to be accepted and appreciated and valued. I want to have time and being affectionate and love and all those good stuff. So those two things are typically what gets us started on that perfectionist route, is that we're trying to avoid punishment, and we're also trying to get some kind of gain. There's nothing wrong with having really strong ideals or expectations. I want to be clear about that. Some of the greatest creations in the history of mankind have come with people just keep working harder and harder and more creative and trying different angles to figure out stuff. I mean, look at the world that we live in. In the last 50 years, think about all the technology and the advancements and the comforts for us that in all of the previous history were non-existent. So somehow, some way, people strived and worked hard and created stuff that seemed at the time unreasonable. It seemed like there's no possible way. If you talk to someone 200 years ago and said that we'd be walking around with these computers in our pockets that could do all this, it's unbelievable, right? I don't think anyone 200 years ago had that vision, and anyone would have said that's unrealistic. So I think it's okay to have challenging goals and objectives, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when it truly is unreasonable, and the other half of it is when your approach to get there is unreasonable. You can be perfectionistic before, during, and after a task. You can be perfectionistic in the entirety of your life or certain aspects. I think most people have 1, 2, or 3 different areas where they tend to have more perfectionistic options. That's the way they think, that's the way they communicate, and that's the way they behave. And then the other aspects, not so much. I think not only is perfection a trap, a torturous one at that, it's an awful cycle, and it actually is brutal. It's super destructive. The more perfectionistic you are, I think the more miserable you're going to be. And the more miserable you're going to be, the more you're going to try to fight it or avoid it. And you're going to look for ways out of it. And unfortunately, many people succumb to perfectionism and allow it to dominate and dictate to them. Unfortunately, there's some dire circumstances that could come of that. It's not a plaything. So with that being said, it's on a continuum and it's in a spectrum. And I want you to stop and think about it. What is perfect? Where does that definition come from? Who determines what perfect is? Is it you? Is it your family, your parents, your spouse, your kids, school, lawyers, teachers, government? Who is it? Is it God? Where does that standard come from? There's nothing wrong with having a preference or a priority or an ideal or an expectation. Nothing wrong with it. The problem is when we impose it on someone or ourselves and it does damage. That's where you get the pathological, the problematic. And so when you think about perfectionism, where is it that you think you struggle the most? Do you think you have to be perfect in the way that you think? Do you think you have to be perfect in the way to communicate, the way you look? Does it, I have to have more likes and subscribers and followers and shares? What is it that you struggle with? Think about the people around you, the people that you care about, the people that you're responsible and your influence and impact. Do you impose that perfectionistic standard? I thought about as I was growing up in my oppressive start to life that the way that I reacted to it was I tried real hard. I went all above and beyond. I put all my focus. My memory back then was remarkable for specific details because I was trying to be as perfect as possible to stay off the radar of being abused. Not only that, I was simultaneously also trying to be perfect in hopes that not only would I not be punished or abused, that I also would get nutrients, that I would be accepted and appreciated and affection and love and all that good stuff. Lots of us have this kind of template imposed upon us. As I thought through from my own situation with my mother, she probably had the same exact thing. And she dropped it down to me. You could only lead someone as far as you are. And so if that formula has been integrated within you, then that's what you know. And you can't help but do it. And I think if you really are honest with yourself, in some way, shape, or form, you have a relationship with perfectionism as well. And when you are passive to it, that means you ignore, you avoid. If you're super hostile or forceful to it, that's aggressive. If you're more of a hybrid, passive aggressive, then you're more procrastinating. People like to focus in on perfectionism and think, they always think procrastinate. There's a reason why perfectionism is something that we tend towards. One is that we think that by doing so, there'll be some great reward, either intrinsically or extrinsically. And it does feel good when you hit a mark or you achieve a goal. It does feel good when a standard is set and you're able to get there, because you have to problem solve, you have to make wise decisions, you have to overcome obstacles and fears, you have to make adjustments in order to hit almost any goal. So it really does feel good, and that's part of the trap. The trap is that there's a blending of good stuff, and then the problem is, as always, if you're destructive in the process to get there or that goal is unreasonable. And so think about doing an inventory as you're thinking through and listening to this and say, what is it that I know that I have a real strong perfectionistic tendency towards myself or someone else? Stop and think about that. And then think also simultaneously, does anyone impose perfection on me? And what does that look like? Almost always, the way that you can figure it out is, how are people getting frustrated and angry and disapproving or hostile towards me and my performance? And that's a sad thing. We all want to love and be loved. That's it. You can create wonderful stuff. You can have a great job. You can have all this. Ultimately, when it boils down to it, love is the thing that we all want. We want more of it. And you either choose love or addiction at any given moment. When you're choosing perfectionism, when you're plagued by perfectionism, it's not love. It's an addiction. An addiction is a pattern of behavior that I do with looking for some short-term gratification, or excuse me, you're looking for more than that, but that's what you end up getting. And then you get all the deleterious consequences with it. So many of us are programmed to be addictive in some way, shape, or form. And that's a major trap, and it's an awful cycle. And with addictions, you have to learn to be able to be assertive and in control of your messaging, to not allow negativity to dictate to you and give you excuses or justification for partake in whatever you're addicted to. So the same thing goes on with perfectionism. Sometimes, oftentimes, we're looking for justification. So let me give you an example. If I was to impose this expectation on someone that they're perfect and then they fail, and I already know that because I've watched their behaviors, patterns, I'm intelligent enough to see this is what they do in this scenario and this is the outcome. And if I impose anything that's unrealistic on them, then I'm looking for a built-in excuse for them to fail so that I am justified in then being harsh or hostile or punitive. Think about that. Think about that for a moment. Stop and take the time. Am I setting up somebody so that I can get justified to express some of my own negativity onto somebody? Is someone doing that to me? Am I being set up to be abused? It's imperative that we learn to love people in totality. It doesn't mean we have to like the different things that people do. We're all imperfect. We all make mistakes. We all fail. We're all selfish and wrong in some way, and it's okay. We all have weaknesses. We all have limitations. I think we need to be more graceful and merciful to one another, to be more loving and to be more gentle. It doesn't mean that you still don't have standards. It doesn't mean that you don't still expect responsibility. It doesn't mean that you still don't have accountability and discipline. All those are stuff you're not going to isolate and sift that off. It's in totality, you look at someone and think the greater good. I work with a family right now, parent coaching. They have a 20-something child that's doing next to nothing, pretty miserable, screen addicted, stays in the house all day, doesn't really enjoy much of life, is constantly scrolling and miserable, comparing and contrasting, and realizing that I'm not living that life. She's comparing her worst with everyone else's best, and that's a trap. And it always comes out to some total negative. I'm not worthy. I'm not significant. I'm not likable. I'm not lovable. And it's really hard for the parents because they busted their tail. They provided for her. They want the best for her. And they see her stagnant and stuck in her room and miserable. They see her anxiety. They see her fears. And every single day that she's operating in that mode is one day that she's not marching forward in the way she needs to. So she's reinforcing the negative. And so they don't know what to do. They're trapped. They're stuck. She's trapped. She's stuck. How do you get out of that? Unfortunately, they've lost the love and they're resentful and even vengeful. And they can't help themselves but finding ways to send aggression. They're passive aggressive. The apathy is crushing everybody. Everyone's stuck. And it's a miserable scenario. And I think lots of people are in that in some way, shape, or form. I'm advocating strongly that you learn to love her and send positive, optimistic messages, but also simultaneously set up a game plan where she has certain things that she needs to be responsible for and in order to earn things. They've given her way too much, and her entitlement has been a big cause of lots of these problems. This is just one small example, but ultimately the message inherent in this is that we need to be more loving of people in general. And then we have to have a specific game plan to help attend to those imperfections, to those aggressions. With that being said, you need that just as well. You need someone to be empathic and understanding and compassionate and considerate for where you're at. You need someone to be merciful and forgiving. Have you ever been in that scenario where you've done something wrong You made a mistake. You failed in some way. And instead of getting disappointment and disapproval and hostility or punishment, you actually got love. It's a beautiful thing. I don't think there's much better that you can get in life when you know you failed like that and someone still loves you. They see through the imperfections. They don't take the damage personally that they got, and they still love you. That's a powerful, powerful thing. Could you imagine if we all operated like that? I'm not advocating that you take big hits that you can't handle. Trust. And there's lots of stuff. There's lots of problems. There's lots of hostility. I can go on. You know that. You live it. That's part of living life. With that being said, though, the people that you care about the most, you really have to make an investment in loving them. And that means when they're imperfect. We are way too much of a culture that expects perfectionism. When we're scrolling on the internet, what are we looking for? When we're going through life, what are we looking for? When we're watching TV or movies, we're looking for perfection. We all want to see perfection. We want to be perfect. We want to have perfection. We think about what that looks like. No more pain and suffering. No more struggle. No more effort or energy or resources towards making adjustments. That's the biggest thing that gets in the way, is that we're not willing to, or we don't have the skill set or the resources to be able to make adjustments when things go awry. When I have this ideology and I impose it when I leave the house, I expect that I'm going to follow the rules on the road and do things the right way and be considerate and cooperative and all that good stuff. And then I expect other people to do the same. That's ludicrous. That's an entitled mindset. That's pride. That's laziness. That's me saying, no, I expect everyone else to get on board and do things the right way or the way I would prefer. And that's not how it operates in life. Who am I? That's an arrogance for me to think that other people should abide by the rules or the way that I think they should. That's perfectionism towards them. People are going to have variances in the way that they skill set, willingness to be able to apply that skill set. Some are going to be rebellious and resistant or lazy or apathetic. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on when you're out there. And I have to take the time, effort, and energy to make the adjustments. I have to expect that people are not going to abide by the rules. And so for me, driving is a big challenge area. You got to ask yourself, where is your challenging areas? Where do you struggle the most? Where do you have a tendency to flare up and be hostile or avoidant? Do you want to, when it comes to something that you're uncomfortable with, you're afraid of, you're either going to get stuck by it, or you're going to try to run away and avoid it, or you're going to attack. And when you love yourself and you love somebody else, you don't want to do any of those three options. You want to be able to be in the midst. You want to be assertive. You want to be present, and you want to be in control of your command center. You want to control the messaging. And like I said in the previous two group sessions, and I'll say it every single time, you need to be the manager of your messages. Somebody says something that you don't like, calls you a name, or is real hostile towards you, that negative message comes in. You have to learn to manage it and metabolize it and not turn around and fight back or be hostile back. Because not only that, you've now doubled up the negativity in your own soul. You got with the negativity, and then you turn around and you made negativity. And then you made negativity for them. That might even be tripling it up. That's a lot of negativity. Somebody has to be strong enough and willing enough to take the negativity and metabolize it on their own and turn around and be that loving person. Even to strangers. I know it's a difficult ask, and I struggle with it as well. It's really easy for me to love the people that I really love and care about. But it's tough. It's tough when people out there driving like they do. It's really tough. I look at it as hostility, and I don't do well with that. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there as well. But the key is I make the adjustments. I take the hits. I take the sacrifices. I prioritize focusing in on this and solving this problem, and not turn around blaming or complaining or whining or being hostile back. That's a very big ask for a lot of people, but I'm going to say this to you all day long. If you truly want peace and joy and freedom, if you really want to live a fulfilling quality life, you're going to have this skill set, and you're going to have to use it. I want to go back a step on this perfectionism. There's a lot that I discovered as I delved into it this past week. And one of the big things is that we are constantly looking for perfectionism because we see that there'll be some kind of value to it. And as I stated earlier, there's pretty incredible stuff that people are able to produce. Quite often we have this perfectionistic standard to give ourselves a built-in excuse for not completing something, for not trying. So the people that are watching us looking and go, oh, that's imperfect. There's no way that's going to even be possible. So there's automatically like, I'm not going to expect you to be able to do that. And then we say the same thing to ourselves. Yeah, it's really not. There's no way. So I'm not going to beat myself up. It's very, very important that each and every moment we set realistic goals and our process to it is assertive. So I want to talk about assertion again. Assertion is optimistic, trusting, faithful, adjusting, flexible, versatile. You have strength. You're moving forward in a progressive manner. You're learning. You make mistakes. You do things wrong. You get lazy. You get distracted, but you calibrate back to assertion. You keep marching forward. You don't let anything get in the way. You do it gracefully. You do it gently. You do it mercifully, but strong and firm at the same time. It's a very confounding thing to think about what assertion is. All too often, we think we're being assertive when we're really being aggressive. The key to life is to learn to assert yourself in the way that you think, the way you communicate, the incoming messages, and the way you behave. If you do that, you stay in your lane, you stay in your zone, and you don't let anyone else speed you up or slow you down. You don't let anyone else inflate you or deflate you. You're doing your optimum best. If you really think through life for yourself or for anybody else, that's all we should be accountable to do. That's all we should be responsible for, is that we do our absolute best. No excuses. No, I'm going to prioritize something else. Say no to all that and say yes to, I'm going to find out what my limitation is. I want to find out what my maximum capacity is. That's it. That's the key to life. Think about it. So many of us don't get on that path. We don't pursue finding out, exploring our full potential. We settle for struggling. We settle for our addictions. We settle for complaining or targeting other people or justification for being lazy or apathetic. The whole key to life, you're blessed. You have gifts, you have skills, you have resources, you have opportunities. And if you're not taking advantage of them and trying to find out who you really are and live your life to the fullest, that's on you. You can blame your parents, you can blame your spouse, you can blame your kids, you can blame whatever, society, culture, government. Ultimately, that's an excuse and it's justification. Find a way to learn how to manage your messaging and do your absolute best in every aspect of life. We waste too much time on junk food. We waste too much time on entertainment. We waste too much time on entertainment that not only is it entertaining, but it also sends a message of you're not good enough. You're not perfect enough. All that to say this, there's going to be times in your life where you're going to be more oriented to being perfectionistic. Doing a thorough inventory, get scientific about this. If you think that it's magically or that you wish or you fantasize that your life is going to improve when you struggle with this, the chances that it happen are next to nil. You know what nil means? Zero. Zero. It's not going to happen. You have to be intentional. You make hundreds, if not thousands of decisions every single day. When you know you're in perfectionistic mode, stop. Get peaceful, calm down, be present, slow things up. Get intentional about what you need to message yourself and other people. Get your action steps down and march towards that goal. Do your absolute best. Don't be deactivated. Don't procrastinate. Don't be passive. Don't be hostile. March. Just do it. Nike, just do it. And then evaluate your progress. Once you evaluate your progress, go, okay, now what do I need? What adjustments do I need to make? And that's how you learn. Slow life down. Don't let anyone speed you up. You got pressure and demands and people telling you to do this and do it this way and by this time. Slow things down as much as you can. And even if you are in those scenarios where you have demands and there's no way out, learn to be assertive and trust your ability to get the task done. If you can do the task, if you've completed the task, that means you can do it. That means use your energy more efficiently, conservation of resources, be proficient in the process, and don't allow all the unnecessary discomfort and negativity pile up. That's a message for the week. As always, we're going to have these videos downloaded on our YouTube channel. We're just getting started over there. You can go there, press pause, take notes, whatever. I'm going to tell you all day long. If you're trudging through stuff and digesting all this information, and everyone's got a different approach and system and philosophy, I think that's great to ingest, but ultimately you have to have your own set action plan. You have to go what resonates and vibes with you and ultimately integrate that into your life. It's not going to happen happenstance. It has to be intentional. You have the power. Learn to control it. As always, your ally in life. I hope to see you guys soon. You guys take care.